The big room was full of noise and angry voices. Aliens from many different worlds sat in tall chairs around a circle. Their skin was all different colors, some blue, some green, some that looked like crystal. In the middle of them all stood one alien who looked very angry. His name was Zarthek, and he came from a place called the Hegemony. His body was made of something that looked like clear glass but was much harder. When the lights hit him, he sparkled like a diamond. He was very tall, much taller than any human, and when he spoke, his voice was loud and scary. "The humans have gone too far," Zarthek said, pointing one of his crystal fingers at the small group of humans sitting near the wall. "They keep taking new worlds. They keep building new homes on planets that should belong to us. This cannot continue." The humans sat very still. There were only 3 of them in this big room full of aliens. Jake Morrison was their leader. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and lines on his face from many years of hard work. He had been a soldier for most of his life, fighting in wars on distant planets. Now he spoke for all humans when they met with aliens. Next to Jake sat Lisa Hayes. She was younger, maybe 35, with short brown hair and smart eyes. She was very good at understanding alien technology and how their weapons worked. She had a small computer in her hands and was reading information very quickly. The third human was Rachel Stone. She was a scientist who studied aliens, how they lived, what they ate, how they fought wars. She had spent years learning about all the different alien races. She knew things about them that even they did not know about themselves. "You humans think you are so strong," said another alien. This one looked like a giant bug with big eyes and sharp teeth. His name was Clixar, and he came from the Zephyrian Empire. "You think because you lived on your dangerous world you know how to fight. But you are wrong. We have better weapons. We have bigger ships. We have won wars against many other races." Jake Morrison stood up slowly. He was not very tall compared to the aliens, but something about the way he moved made everyone in the room watch him. He had the look of a man who had seen many battles and was not afraid of seeing more. "Ambassador Zarthek," Jake said in a calm voice, "you say we took a world that belongs to you. But when we came to Kepler 442b 2 years ago, there was nobody there. We looked everywhere, we sent signals, we waited for months, no one answered, the world was empty." Zarthek's crystal body began to glow brighter. This meant he was getting more angry. "It does not matter if the world was empty. That system belongs to the hegemony now. We claim it. You must leave." "And if we don't?" Jake asked. Clixar made a sound like laughing, but it was not a happy sound. It was the sound his people made when they thought something was funny in a mean way. "Then we will make you leave. We will bring our warships. We will bring our soldiers. We will show you what real fighting looks like." Rachel Stone looked at Jake and then at Lisa. All 3 humans knew this moment was coming. They had talked about it many times. The aliens in the galaxy were used to getting what they wanted. When they found a new race, they would make them, join their empire, or they would destroy them. They had done this hundreds of times before, but they had never met humans before. Lisa Hayes touched her computer, and pictures appeared in the air above them. The pictures showed the human colony on Kepler 442b. There were farms and small towns. There were children playing in parks. There were old people sitting on porches watching the sunset. "These are our people," Lisa said. "They left Earth to build new lives. They worked very hard to make this world their home. Some of them have been there for 2 years now. They have children who were born there. This is not just a place we can walk away from. This is their home." Zarthek looked at the pictures, but his face did not change. "Then they will die with their home." Jake Morrison took a deep breath. He had hoped it would not come to this, but he was ready. "Ambassador, I need to tell you something important. You think you know about humans because someone told you we come from a dangerous world, but you don't really understand what that means." "It means you are tough," Clixar said. "So what? Many races are tough." "No," Rachel Stone said, standing up next to Jake. "It means something very different. It means we learned to survive in a place where everything was trying to kill us. Not just other animals, not just other people. Everything. The weather, the ground, the air, the water. Even the plants and tiny germs were dangerous. She touched Lisa's computer and new pictures appeared. These showed Earth, but not the pretty parts. These pictures showed giant storms that could destroy cities. They showed mountains that exploded, with fire and melted rock. They showed huge waves that could wash away everything for miles. They showed ice that covered whole continents. Most of you come from worlds that are safe and calm, Rachel continued. Your weather is always the same. Your ground does not shake. Your mountains do not explode. You learn to fight wars between people, but you never learn to fight the world itself. The aliens in the room became very quiet. They were looking at the pictures of Earth and beginning to understand something they had never thought about before. Jake Morrison spoke again. We don't want to fight you. We came here to talk and find a way to solve this problem without anyone getting hurt. But if you force us to fight, you need to know what you are getting into. Are you threatening us? Zarthek asked. His voice was now very cold and dangerous. I'm trying to warn you, Jake said. Your people have won wars against other aliens who fight the same way you do. They line up their ships in neat rows. They follow rules. They surrender when they start losing. Too many soldiers, but humans don't fight that way. Klickzar made his laughing sound again. What are you going to do that is so special? Throw rocks at our spaceships? Lisa Hayes smiled, but it was not a nice smile. If we have to. The alien looked confused. What does that mean? It means we will use whatever we can find, Jake explained. Other races fight with the weapons they bring. Humans fight with everything around us. We turn the weather into a weapon. We turn the ground into a trap. We turn empty space into a maze. We have been doing this for thousands of years because on our world, if you don't think that way, you die. Zarthek was quiet for a long moment. Around the room, other aliens were whispering to each other in their strange languages. Finally, he spoke again. You have 47 days, he said. In 47 days, our war fleet will arrive at Kepler 442. If your people are still there, we will remove them. If you try to stop us, we will destroy you. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Jake Morrison nodded slowly. Then I guess we'll see you in 47 days. As the meeting ended and the aliens began to leave, Rachel Stone gathered her things and walked over to Jake and Lisa. Do you think they understand what they're getting into? She asked quietly. Jake looked at the door where Zarthek had just left. No, but they will. The three humans left the big room together. In 47 days, the galaxy would learn something new about what it meant to be human. It would not be a gentle lesson. Amy Parker stood at the big window of the space station looking down at the planet below. The planet was called Kepler 442b, but the humans who lived there just called it New Hope. From up here, she could see the lights of the small towns and farms spread across the green land. She could also see something else. Lots of people working very fast to build things that would help them fight. Amy was a colonel in the human military. She had short red hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She had fought in 3 wars before this one, and she knew what it looked like when people were getting ready to fight for their lives. The people down on New Hope were scared, but they were not giving up. Colonel Parker, said a young man walking up to her. His name was Ben Carter, and he was her helper. He carried a computer pad with lots of information on it. The report you wanted is ready. Amy took the pad and read the numbers. In the past month, everything had changed on New Hope. The farmers had learned to make bombs from the chemicals they used to grow food. The engineers had built big guns that could shoot at ships in space. The teachers and shop owners had learned to use military radios and how to hide from enemy soldiers. How many people have we moved to the safe places? Amy asked. All the children and old people are in the underground caves now, Ben said. The caves are very deep and have thick rock walls. Even if the aliens drop bombs, the people inside will be safe. Amy nodded. The caves were important, but not just for keeping people safe. The humans had learned something that the aliens did not understand. When you live on a dangerous world, you learn to use every part of that world to help you survive. Down on the planet, in a small town called Haven, a man named Tony Martinez was teaching a group of people how to fight. Tony was a sergeant in the human army, but the people he was teaching were not soldiers. They were just normal people who had decided to defend their home. "Remember," Tony told them, "the aliens expect us to fight like the other races they have, beaten. They expect us to line up our soldiers in straight lines and march toward each other. They expect us to follow rules and give up when too many of us get hurt." A woman raised her hand. Her name was Mary Chen, and before the war started, she had been a scientist who studied plants. Now she was learning to make explosives from everyday things like soap and fertilizer. "What if their weapons are much better than ours?" Mary asked. Tony smiled. "Then we don't fight their weapons. We fight them. You see, most aliens have never been in a real fight where they might die. They push buttons and fire big guns from far away. But humans have been fighting to survive for thousands of years. We know how to get close to our enemies and hit them where it hurts." Another person, a man named Carl Johnson who used to build houses, spoke up. "But how do we get close to them? They have armor and shields and flying machines." "That's where our world helps us," Tony said. He pointed to the sky where dark clouds were gathering. "In 2 weeks, the big storm season starts. Storms that would kill most aliens. But we grew up with storms like that. We know how to move in them, how to see in them, how to use them to hide." Mary Chen looked up at the clouds and began to understand. "You mean the storms are not just something bad that happens, they are something we can use." "Exactly," Tony said. "Every part of this world that makes life hard for us makes it even harder for them. The rain, the wind, the lightning, the mud. All of it becomes our weapon." Back on the space station, Amy Parker was meeting with other military leaders. On the big screen in front of them was Admiral Kate Sullivan, who was commanding the human space fleet. Kate was a woman in her 40s with black hair and serious eyes. She was known for being very smart about space battles. "Status report, Admiral," Amy said. "My ships are moving into position," Kate replied. "We have 12 ships total. The aliens have 36 ships, and each of their ships is bigger than ours. In a normal space battle, we would lose very quickly." "But this won't be a normal space battle," said another voice. It was Rachel Stone, the scientist from the peace meeting. She was now on New Hope helping to plan the defense. "Admiral, what have you learned about how the aliens fight in space?" Kate touched her computer, and pictures appeared on the screen. "They line up their ships in formations like soldiers marching. They shoot at each other until one side gives up or gets destroyed. Their tactics are very old and very predictable." "And our tactics?" Amy asked. Kate smiled. "Are very new and very unpredictable. We're not going to line up and trade shots with them. We're going to do things they've never seen before." Rachel Stone nodded. "The aliens come from worlds where everything is safe and orderly. Their military thinks the same way. They have rules for everything, and they follow those rules even when the rules don't make sense." "What about their ground forces?" Amy asked. "That's where we have our biggest advantage," Rachel said. "Their soldiers are used to fighting on flat, open ground with good weather and clear visibility. They have never fought in a storm, never fought in a jungle, never fought on ground that is trying to kill them just as much as the enemy is." On the planet below, the preparations continued. In the capital city of New Hope, a man named Gary Reynolds was working with a team of engineers. Gary was a captain in the human space navy, but right now he was helping to prepare something very special. "Are you sure this will work?" asked one of the engineers. Gary looked at the plans they had been working on. "The aliens expect our ships to stay in space and fight like spaceships. They don't expect us to use the planet itself as part of the battle." What Gary and his team were building was something that had never been tried before. They were putting rocket engines and weapons on some of their spaceships so that those ships could fly down into the planet's atmosphere and then back up into space. This would let them attack the alien ships from directions the aliens would never expect. "Most spaceships can't fly in atmosphere," the engineer said. "The air is too thick and the gravity is too strong." "Most spaceships," Gary agreed. "But humans have been flying things in atmosphere for hundreds of years before we ever went to space. We know how to make it work." Meanwhile, in the underground, Command Center, Military planners were studying everything they could learn about the alien forces. They had been watching alien wars for years, learning how aliens fought and what their weaknesses were. "Look at this," said Major Patricia White, pointing to a computer screen. "In every war the aliens have fought, they stop fighting when they lose more than 20% of their soldiers. To them, that's a disaster." "What about us?" asked Captain Steve Murphy. Patricia looked at the history of human wars. "Humans have kept fighting even when we lost 90% of our people. We don't stop fighting just because we're losing. We stop fighting when we win or when there's nobody left to fight." This was something the aliens did not understand about humans. Most alien races would surrender when the fighting got too hard or too expensive. But humans had learned to fight until the very end because on their dangerous world, giving up meant dying. As the days passed, the people of New Hope worked together in ways that amazed even their own leaders. Children helped carry supplies. Old people shared their knowledge of how to survive in hard times. Everyone, from the richest person to the poorest, worked together to prepare for the battle that was coming. The aliens thought they were coming to fight a young race that had just learned to travel between stars. What they were actually coming to fight was a species that had been preparing for this kind of battle for thousands of years, even before they knew that aliens existed. In 18 more days, the alien fleet would arrive. When it did, both sides would learn something new about what it meant to be human. Admiral Veltar stood on the bridge of his giant warship called Cosmic Dominion. He was very tall, almost 9 feet, with blue skin and 4 arms. His people, the Altarians, came from a world with 3 moons and perfect weather that never changed. Veltar had won many battles against other alien races, and he was sure this battle would be easy too. "Report," he said to his officers as his fleet came out of hyperspace near the human world. "Sir, we count 12 human ships positioned around the planet. They are much smaller than our ships. Our fleet has 36 vessels. This should be a quick victory." Veltar looked at the display screen showing the human ships. They looked very small and weak compared to his mighty warships. Some of his ships were 10 times bigger than the largest human vessel. His weapons could destroy a human ship with one shot. "Open communications," Veltar ordered. "Let me speak to their leader." The screen flickered and showed the face of a human woman. She had gray hair and calm eyes that showed no fear. This was Admiral Kate Sullivan, commander of the Human Defense Fleet. She sat in what looked like a small, crowded room filled with computers and screens. "I am Admiral Veltar of the Hegemony 7th Fleet," the alien said in his deep, scary voice. "You are surrounded and outnumbered. Your ships are toys compared to ours. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick and painless." Kate Sullivan looked at him for a long moment without saying anything. Then she smiled just a little bit. "Admiral Veltar, I'm going to give you some free advice that might save your fleet and your life. Turn your ships around right now and go home. You have no idea what you're getting into." The alien admiral was so surprised he could not speak for several seconds. No race had ever talked to him like this. Every other species had begged for mercy or tried to make deals when faced with his powerful fleet. "You dare threaten me," Veltar finally said, his voice full of anger. "Your entire fleet could not damage one of my smallest ships." "That's what they all think," Kate said calmly, "right up until they learn what humans can really do in a fight." She cut off the communication, leaving Veltar staring at a blank screen. Around him, his officers looked shocked and confused. "Sir," said his weapons officer, "should we destroy them now?" "Yes," Veltar said. "Fire all weapons. Show these primitives the power of the hegemony." The alien fleet opened fire with their huge plasma cannons. Bright beams of energy shot across space toward the human ships. But something strange happened. Instead of forming a battle line and shooting back, the human ships scattered in all directions like leaves in the wind. "What are they doing?" asked the alien tactical officer. "This makes no sense." The human ships were moving in ways that broke every rule of space combat. Some dove toward the planet. Others flew up and away from the battle. A few seemed to be running away completely. It looked like the human fleet was falling apart in panic. "Easy. Victory," Veltar said with satisfaction. "They are running like cowards." But Captain Gary Reynolds, commanding the human ship Defiant, was not running away. He was doing something that no alien pilot had ever tried before. His ship was diving straight down toward the planet's atmosphere at full speed. "Captain," said his navigator, "if we go much deeper, the atmosphere will tear us apart." "Trust me," Gary said. "I know what I'm doing." Behind him, 3 alien cruisers were chasing his ship, confident they could destroy it easily. The alien ships were much bigger and more powerful, but they were built only for fighting in empty space. They had never been designed to fly in a planet's atmosphere. As the Defiant entered the thick air around the planet, something amazing happened. The ship did not break apart. Instead, it used the atmosphere like a shield. The thick air and electromagnetic fields made it impossible for the alien ships to lock their weapons onto the human vessel. The alien captains were confused and scared. "Where did it go?" one of them asked. "I cannot see it on my screens." "It went into the atmosphere," replied another. "Our ships cannot follow it there." What the aliens did not know was that Gary Reynolds had been a pilot on Earth before becoming a space captain. He had flown aircraft through storms, clouds, and all kinds of dangerous weather. Flying a spaceship through a planet's atmosphere was difficult, but not impossible for someone who understood how to use air and gravity as tools. The Defiant flew completely around the planet, hidden in the thick atmosphere. When it came out on the other side, it was moving very fast and the alien ships were not expecting it. Gary fired his torpedoes at close range and damaged 2 of the alien cruisers before they could react. "Impossible," Veltar said when he heard the report. How can they use the planet itself as a weapon? The answer was something the aliens could not understand. Humans had learned to use everything around them to survive. Empty space, planets, asteroids, even the gravity from stars could become tools in human hands. Admiral Kate Sullivan was commanding her fleet from the bridge of her flagship, the Resolute. She was not trying to fight the aliens the way they expected. Instead, she was using tactics that no alien had ever seen before. "All ships, execute pattern Delta," she ordered. The human ships began moving in what looked like random directions, but there was a plan. They were using the planet's gravity to speed up and slow down, making it hard for the alien weapons to hit them. They were hiding behind asteroids and space debris. They were attacking from directions the aliens were not watching. Captain Linda Foster, commanding the human destroyer Swift, led her ship on what looked like a retreat toward the edge of the solar system. 5 alien ships chased her, thinking she was running away. But Linda was leading them into a trap. "Now," she said, when the alien ships were far from their main fleet. The Swift suddenly turned around and fired everything it had at the lead alien ship. At the same time, 2 other human ships that had been hiding behind an asteroid attacked from the sides. The aliens found themselves surrounded and outgunned. Back at the main battle, Veltar was becoming more and more frustrated. His ships were bigger and stronger, but somehow the humans were winning. Every time he tried to corner them, they would disappear or attack from somewhere unexpected. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost 6 ships and 12 more are damaged. The humans have only lost 1 vessel." "How is this possible?" Veltar demanded. "We have superior technology." What Veltar did not understand was that technology alone did not win battles. Humans had something his people had never developed: the ability to think quickly and adapt to new situations. When their original plan did not work, they made a new plan. When the enemy did something unexpected, they found a way to use it against them. Captain Bob Harrison, commanding the human cruiser Intrepid, demonstrated this perfectly. When 3 alien ships surrounded his vessel, instead of trying to fight his way out, he did something completely crazy. He flew his ship straight toward the planet's largest moon. "Captain, you're flying us into a collision course," his navigator warned. "I know," Bob said calmly. "Trust me." The alien ships followed, expecting to finish off the human vessel when it crashed. But Bob was not planning to crash. At the last second, he used the moon's gravity to slingshot his ship around at incredible speed. The alien ships, not expecting this maneuver, crashed into each other trying to avoid the moon. Admiral Sullivan watched the battle unfold on her screens. The aliens were powerful, but they were predictable. They followed the same tactics they had used for hundreds of years. Humans, on the other hand, had learned to survive by being unpredictable. All ships, she ordered, begin final phase. Human ships that had seemed to be scattered all over the system suddenly came together in a coordinated attack. They had not been running away or fighting randomly. They had been moving into position for one massive strike. Veltar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by an enemy he had thought was weak and primitive. The humans were not fighting like civilized beings. They were fighting like wild animals, using every trick and advantage they could find. Retreat, he finally ordered. All ships, retreat immediately. But it was too late for many of his vessels. The humans had taught the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for centuries. Never underestimate a species that learned to fight on a world trying to kill them. The sky above New Hope turned black as the biggest storm in 50 years rolled across the land. Wind howled at 200 miles per hour, rain fell like bullets, and lightning lit up the darkness every few seconds. For most alien species in the galaxy, this kind of weather would be called a natural disaster. For the humans living on New Hope, it was just Tuesday. Commander Zarthek stood inside his landing ship, watching the storm through a small window. His crystal body was shaking slightly, not from cold, but from fear. He had never seen weather like this before. On his homeworld, rain was gentle and wind was just a soft breeze. This storm looked like the end of the world. "Sir," said his aide, a younger crystal being named Koltar, "perhaps we should wait for the storm to pass before we attack the human settlements." Zarthek turned away from the window. He was angry that his fleet had been defeated in space, and he wanted to prove that ground combat would be different. "No, the storm affects the humans just as much as it affects us. We attack now while they are hiding from the weather." This was Zarthek's first big mistake. He thought the storm was just something bad that happened to everyone equally. He did not understand that for humans, storms were not disasters to hide from. They were tools to be used. Down in the town of Haven, Sergeant Tony Martinez was moving through the storm with his team of militia fighters. The wind was so strong it could knock down a grown man, and the rain was so heavy you could barely see 10 feet in front of you. But Tony and his people moved through it like ghosts. "Contact ahead," whispered Carl Johnson, the former construction worker who had become very good at spotting enemies. 10 aliens, maybe 12, moving toward the school building. Tony looked through the rain and lightning and saw the alien soldiers. They were having a very hard time walking in the storm. Their energy shields were glowing bright blue, which made them easy to see in the darkness. They were walking close together in a straight line, the way soldiers were supposed to walk on their homeworlds. "They're fighting the storm instead of using it," Tony said quietly to his team. "Mary, are your surprises ready?" Mary Chen, the former plant scientist who had become an expert at making bombs, nodded. "The drainage tunnels are all set. Just give me the signal." The alien patrol was struggling against the wind and rain. Their shields protected them from energy weapons, but they made the wind push against them even harder. Their electronic equipment was having problems because of all the lightning in the air. They could barely hear each other over the noise of the storm. "This is impossible," one alien soldier said into his radio. "How can anyone fight in this weather?" "Keep moving," ordered their sergeant. "The humans are probably hiding in their buildings waiting for the storm to end." But the humans were not hiding. They were everywhere around the aliens, invisible in the storm. Carl Johnson was crouched behind a broken wall only 20 feet away. Mary Chen was in a storm drain directly under the alien patrol. Tony Martinez was on the roof of a building moving carefully through the rain. The aliens had no idea they were surrounded. "Now," Tony whispered into his radio. What happened next would have been impossible in normal weather. Mary triggered the explosive charges she had placed in the storm drains. But instead of just exploding, the bombs used the storm water rushing through the tunnels. A wall of muddy water and debris burst out of the drains, hitting the alien patrol like a giant fist. The aliens were not hurt badly, but they were scattered and confused. Their neat formation was broken. Their communications equipment was damaged by the water, and in the confusion they could not tell where the attack had come from. "Where are they?" one alien shouted. "I cannot see the enemy." That was when Carl Johnson attacked from behind. He had learned to move silently through storms while working construction in bad weather. He knew how to time his movements with the lightning so the thunder would cover any noise he made. The alien never saw him coming. At the same time, Tony dropped down from the roof. He had tied ropes to the building so the wind would not blow him away, and he swung down like a spider dropping from its web. The aliens were looking for enemies on the ground. They never thought to look up. All across the battlefield, the same thing was happening. Human fighters were using the storm as a weapon while the aliens fought against it. Every time lightning flashed, humans appeared out of nowhere and then vanished again. Every time thunder rolled across the sky, more aliens found themselves cut off from their units. In the alien command center, Commander Zarthek was getting reports that made no sense. "Sir, Patrol 7 has stopped responding. Patrol 12 reports they are under attack but cannot see the enemy. Patrol 3 says the humans are using the weather itself as a weapon." Zarthek did not understand. How can primitives use weather as a weapon? Weather just happens. No one can control it. But humans did not need to control the weather. They just needed to understand it better than their enemies did. They had grown up with hurricanes and tornadoes and thunderstorms. They knew that lightning could be used to mask movement, that wind could carry sound away from enemy ears, and that rain could wash away footprints and scent trails. Private Dan Kelly, a 19-year-old farm boy who had volunteered to defend his home, demonstrated this perfectly. He was hiding in a cornfield that was being torn apart by the wind. The alien patrol searching for him could barely stand up in the storm, but Dan knew exactly how to move through the broken corn stalks. He waited until a huge lightning bolt lit up the sky, and then he moved. The thunder that followed was so loud, the aliens could not hear his footsteps. When the lightning faded, he was gone, leaving only swaying cornstalks that could have been moved by the wind. "Where did he go?" the alien sergeant asked his troops. "He vanished," one soldier replied. 1 second he was there, the next second nothing. What the aliens did not know was that Dan was now behind them, moving through the storm-tossed field, like a hunter. He had grown up playing hide-and-seek in weather like this. To him, the storm was not a problem to solve, but a friend helping him hide. Meanwhile, in the town center, a group of alien soldiers had taken shelter in what used to be the local grocery store. They thought they were safe from the storm and from human attacks. They were wrong on both counts. Sandra Williams, a nurse who had learned military tactics in the past month, was watching them from across the street. She had noticed that the aliens always tried to get out of the rain and wind. They did not like being wet or cold. This gave her an idea. "Mike," she whispered into her radio, talking to Mike Thompson, the town's former fire chief. "Can you flood the storm drains on Main Street?" "Already working on it," Mike replied. "Give me 2 minutes." Mike had spent 20 years fighting fires and dealing with floods. He knew every pipe and drain in the town. By opening the right valves and blocking the right tunnels, he could send all the storm water flowing exactly where he wanted it to go. 2 minutes later, the grocery store began to flood. Water poured in through the drains and under the doors. The alien soldiers tried to escape, but when they opened the doors, the wind and rain hit them like a physical attack. "Fall back," their leader ordered. "We cannot fight in these conditions." But there was nowhere to fall back to. Every building they tried to enter was either flooded, too damaged by the storm to provide shelter, or already occupied by humans, who knew the town much better than they did. As the night went on, the alien ground forces found themselves scattered, confused, and unable to fight effectively. They had come to conquer a primitive colony, but instead they found themselves fighting an enemy that used the planet itself as a weapon. Commander Zarthek finally understood what the humans had tried to warn him about back in the peace talks. This was not just about having better weapons or more soldiers. This was about fighting a species that had learned to survive in conditions that would kill most other forms of life. "All units," he ordered into his radio, "retreat to the landing ships. We are leaving this world." But even retreating would not be easy. The storm was getting stronger, and the humans were not going to let them leave without a fight. 3 months after the battle, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council was very quiet. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their chairs, but nobody was talking. They were all reading the same report, and what they read made them very uncomfortable. The report was about the battle at Kepler 442, where the mighty hegemony fleet had been defeated by a small group of human colonists. The numbers in the report were shocking. The aliens had lost 22 ships and over 3,000 soldiers. The humans had lost only 2 ships and 47 people. Admiral Veltar sat in a special chair designed for wounded beings. His blue skin was now pale and covered with scars from the battle. One of his forearms was gone, lost when his ship was attacked by human fighters who appeared out of nowhere. He looked like a broken statue of what he used to be. Honored delegates, Veltar began, his voice much quieter than it had been before the war. I must tell you about the mistakes we made. We thought we understood humans because we knew they came from a dangerous world. We were wrong. He touched a button and pictures appeared in the air above the council. The pictures showed human ships doing impossible things, flying through planetary atmospheres, using gravity to change direction, attacking from directions that should have been empty space. We thought superior technology would guarantee victory. Veltar continued. We believed that bigger ships and stronger weapons would win the war. But humans do not fight the way civilized species fight. They use everything around them as a weapon. Dr. Kethara, the hegemony's top scientist who studied alien minds, stood up to speak. She was a tall, thin being with silver skin and large, black eyes. She had spent the past 3 months trying to understand how the humans had won. The problem, Dr. Kethara said, is that we misunderstood what the word Deathworlder means. We thought it just meant humans were tough and could survive in harsh conditions. But it means much more than that. She activated her own display, showing images of Earth. The pictures showed volcanoes erupting, hurricanes destroying cities, earthquakes splitting the ground open, and ice covering entire continents. Every species in this council evolved on worlds that were safe and predictable, Dr. Kethara explained. Your weather patterns are stable, your ground does not move, your climates do not change suddenly. You learned to build civilizations because your worlds allowed you to plan for the future. The pictures changed to show human cities built to survive earthquakes, humans farming in areas where volcanoes could erupt at any time, and humans living in places where the temperature could change by 50 degrees in one day. Humans evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill them, Dr. Kethara continued. They learned not just to survive disasters, but to expect them and use them. When we brought our organized military to fight them, we were bringing order to fight chaos, and chaos won. Commander Zarthek was also in the council chamber, but he looked very different than he had 3 months ago. His crystal body was cracked in many places, and several pieces were missing entirely. He had barely survived the retreat from New Hope. The humans warned us, Zarthek said quietly. In our first meeting, they told us we did not understand what we were getting into. We thought they were bluffing. We thought no primitive species could threaten the hegemony. He paused, remembering the horror of fighting humans in the storm. They did not fight like soldiers. They fought like hunters. They used our own tactics against us. When we tried to form battle lines, they scattered. When we tried to chase them, they led us into traps. When we tried to take shelter from the weather, they used the weather to attack us. Captain Jake Morrison was sitting with the human delegation, listening to the aliens describe their defeat. Next to him, Rachel Stone was taking notes on everything being said. Lisa Hayes was monitoring the reactions of different alien species to the reports. The question now, said the representative from the Zephyrian Empire, is what we do about the humans. They have proven they can defeat our most powerful military forces. Are they a threat to all of us? Many aliens in the chamber nodded their agreement. They were scared of humans now, and scared beings often made bad decisions. Jake Morrison stood up slowly. May I speak? The chamber became completely silent. Everyone wanted to hear what the human would say. Honored delegates, Jake began, 3 months ago, you challenged us to a fight. We tried to warn you it was a bad idea. We tried to explain that we fight differently than other species. You did not listen. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many aliens as he could. You lost that fight because you thought technology was more important than understanding your enemy. You thought being bigger and stronger was more important than being smart and adaptable. Jake activated his own display, showing pictures of the human colony on New Hope. The pictures showed humans and aliens working together to rebuild what had been damaged in the battle. After the fighting ended, do you know what happened? Your wounded soldiers were treated in our hospitals. Your damaged ships were repaired in our shipyards. Your prisoners were fed the same food as our own people. Several aliens looked surprised. This was not what usually happened after a war. We did not fight you because we hate you, Jake continued. We fought you because you threatened our families and our homes. Now that the fighting is over, we want to be friends again. Rachel Stone stood up next to Jake. The delegates are asking the wrong question. You want to know if humans are a threat to galactic civilization. But the real question is whether galactic civilization is ready to include a species like humans. She pointed to the reports about the battle. Every species in this chamber evolved on worlds that were safe and comfortable. You learned to cooperate, because cooperation made life easier. You developed rules and laws because your worlds were predictable enough for rules to work. The display showed more images of Earth: tsunamis, asteroid impacts, ice ages, and mass extinctions. Humans evolved on a world where cooperation was necessary for survival, where rules had to be flexible because conditions changed constantly, and where being adaptable was more important than being comfortable. Dr. Cathara spoke up again. What the humans are saying is that they bring something new to our civilization: their way of thinking, their ability to adapt, their willingness to use everything around them. These could be advantages for all of us. Or they could be threats, said the Zephyrian representative. Jake Morrison smiled. That depends entirely on you. If you treat us as enemies, we will defend ourselves. But if you treat us as allies, we will help you solve problems you cannot solve alone. Lisa Hayes stood up and activated a new display. Let me show you what I mean. For the past month, we have been working with hegemony scientists to solve a problem they have been struggling with for years. The display showed a mining operation on an asteroid that was spinning very fast and had an unstable orbit. The hegemony wanted to mine this asteroid, but their traditional methods would not work because the asteroid moves too unpredictably. The pictures changed to show human engineers working with alien scientists. Humans are good at solving problems in unstable environments. Working together, we found a way to mine the asteroid safely. The hegemony gets the minerals they need, and humans learn new technology from their science. Captain Morrison nodded. This is what we want. Cooperation, not conflict. We can learn from each other and help each other. Admiral Veltar struggled to stand up with his remaining arms. The humans defeated us in battle, but they are offering us partnership in peace. Perhaps it is time for the galaxy to learn new ways of doing things. The chamber was quiet for a long time as the delegates thought about what they had heard. Finally, the council president, an ancient being whose species had helped found galactic civilization, spoke. The motion before us is whether to accept humans as full members of the Galactic Council. All in favor? Slowly, one by one, hands and tentacles and other appendages rose around the chamber. Not all of them. Some species were still afraid, but enough. The motion passes, the president announced. Welcome to the galaxy, humans. As the session ended, Jake Morrison felt a weight lift from his shoulders. The immediate danger was over, but he knew this was just the beginning. Humans would have to prove themselves over and over again. But they had made a start. Rachel Stone joined him as they walked out of the chamber. Do you think they really understand what they are getting into? Jake looked back at the aliens filing out of the Great Hall, some still looking nervous about their new human neighbors. Some of them do. The others will learn. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humans. Now it was time for humans to learn what it meant to be part of something bigger than just one world. It would be interesting to see what happened next.